And welcome back to another episode of Pokemon Knowledge. On today's episode, we're going to not just talk about what I consider the four major grading companies, but we're also going to discuss whether or not it's time for you to jump into the deep end. And if you haven't been grading cards, now's the time. And, maybe in this video, we'll be able to explain why I think that. And when I talk about grading, obviously for these videos, I'm talking about Pokemon grading. And the market has changed so much in just a short amount of time, especially when it comes to the graded card market. And I think the big issue right now is there's a lack of supply, but obviously there's a huge demand. And, talking to different people, and I'm sure you've read different things or watched other content creators talk about this, but there is the potential for a huge flood of graded cards to hit the market. But we are only speculating what that flood of cards will be, and it could mean a bunch of different things. And not only will it mean different things, I think we'll see it come in different waves. I think the first wave of graded cards to really hit the market, and when I talk about waves, we're going to more or less just be talking about probably Beckett and PSA because right now the turnaround times for those are so long. Potentially I've heard 6 to 9 months for PSA. Beckett, I know it's currently over 6 months. Like CGC, until very recently, they had 30-day turnaround times on cards. Now they've recently bumped up their turnaround times to 60 plus days. GMA had 20-day turnaround times. They've recently bumped it up to 45. So all the cards that were at GMA and CGC, in the last month, most of those cards, I shouldn't say most, but a majority of those cards have already been returned to the people grading them, and those cards have probably already hit the market. But the PSA and the Beckett cards are the ones that we're still waiting for all those big bulk submissions to get returned to people. Now, that could mean a few things, like I said, different waves. The first waves to really come out are going to be all the high value, high tier cards to be graded. So all your, hollows or big dollar amount cards, that's what we'll see first with the first wave. And then I think the second wave will be the wave of people who were watching recently sold auctions, like examples of, Charmander, Bulbasaur, Squirtle, Pikachu, base set. PSA 9s and 10s, unlimited versions of these cards were selling for, some of them were selling for over $100 a piece for, your common base set. You're going to see a wave of those cards. So a lot of like anything that had a first edition stamp on it, whether it's Jungle, Fossil, all the Team Rocket series, all your Neo Genesis, all your Gym Heroes, anything that has a first edition stamp on, that people were sitting on just a ton of bulk of these different products, but they were watching all the prices of these PSA 9 and 10 cards selling, and they were saying, well, I don't want to miss this. So they sent all those cards away for bulk grade, and I think that will then be the second wave of cards we see come. Then I think the third wave of cards we'll see start coming in real heavy will be a lot of the cards that were submitted by, maybe some of the newer collectors of Pokemon. And by newer, I mean, last 6 years of cards. So we'll see all the expansions from Sun and Moon, all the expansions from Sword and Shield, all the high value, high dollar amount cards from those sets. Because you got to remember, we are seeing a few of those trickle in now, but the problem is people had to pay the premium for all those express grading fees, especially PSA stuff like that. But a lot of people had those, pretty good polls recently because a lot of product has been open recently, especially in the last, year or two. But all those cards that got sent for, the cheaper dollar amount grading costs, especially with bulk and stuff like that, all those cards will start trickling onto the market and we'll see a lot of new, what, what just a couple months ago were pretty premium new product, full art cards, VMAXs, stuff like that. All the rainbow rares, all those prices I think we'll start to see drop when that huge supply hits the market. But now this is where I'm going to tell people who might have been a little bit afraid of, sending cards away to grade in, whether it was the initial upfront cost of having the cards graded, or maybe they just weren't super familiar with the process of how to do it. So, to talk about the dollar amount, yes, obviously, to send a lot of cards, it is financially taxing. And if just the cost for you to grade your cards is so much, maybe you shouldn't really be in the graded card market. I would just maybe stay with, ungraded product just for the time being until maybe you can afford that next step. But again, do whatever you feel comfortable. And then the second one is, why are you in the game? Are you in it to make money, or do you just want to be a collector of, graded product? But then that whole collector of graded product thing, we've seen not just a shift in the graded card market because of turnaround times, we've seen a shift in investors and what people are buying. And the scary thing is I always tell people, buy the card, don't buy the grade. But you'll see it out there a lot. PSA cards that are graded fetch more money for the same exact grade than other cards of different grading companies with the same grade. And I don't know when we'll see that change, but eventually people will start to come to their senses a little bit, and we will start to see that price difference change. And when that price difference changes, PSA's in for a lot of trouble. But there will be so much pushback and backlash from PSA collectors who will just instantly shut down any other grading card company. That will probably take the longest amount of time. Now, if you guys have been wanting to grade cards for a while, maybe you're sitting on a couple good cards you want to send away, there's no better time than the present to just do it, because the first thing you're going to do by sending cards out is at least you're going to get the experience that maybe you've been hesitant from getting by just submitting cards. CGC is one of the easier ones. You just could get a $25 a year membership. You get a lot of their different uh, grading services with it. GMA is probably the easiest of all of them because you don't need any membership. All you do is you print out their form online. You could fill it in with like an Excel spreadsheet, package your cards pretty much any way you want, and just mail it to them for graded. PSA is a little different right now because they have canceled their membership fees, so they're not accepting cards for new members. But you can go with the US graded gem route. And if you guys aren't familiar with that, it's just a third party. You could send your cards to them, they'll send it to PSA. It is tricky right now with turnaround times and everything. So that could be a lot of people's fear is you don't know how long your cards are going to be gone for. Maybe you are just looking for that quick turnaround. But hey, now's the time. If you guys have been dragging your feet and you've been considering it, just do it. And I would say, even if it's just a matter of sending, one card to each grading company, yeah, you might take a little bit of a loss because you're going to have to pay shipping costs to send them there, and then you got to pay the shipping costs to return, a single card. But at least you'll know, and you'll be familiar with the process. And you got to at least take a baby step if you want to, start to walk before you're going to run. And the only way you're going to really be comfortable with grading is by pulling off that initial band aid. And when it comes to the grading card market, I think the biggest area of opportunity is the place where there's lack of supply for certain cards in the graded market. There will always be tons of graded base set Charizards, between unlimited, shadowless, and first editions. Those cards will always be the obvious choice to have graded. The choice of cards that people might not have thought about getting graded, but there's still a strong market out there. You know, I don't know exactly every card, but maybe you guys will eventually come across those cards. And when you do find holes in the market or niches, places where there's a need but no supply, that's something you could consider sending your cards away for grading to fill that supply. And even if it's in the short term, you could see huge returns, especially because the market will be so small when it comes to those certain type of cards. But hey guys, this was just a speculation video. I want to know your thoughts. Write a comment down below. What do you think about the current state of the graded market? Do you see the graded market collapsing, getting smaller? Do you see this flood of bulk submissions hitting the market and just destroying everything in its path? Or do you guys still see value in a lot of the cards to be graded, a lot of the high value and some of the mid tier values? Because we're seeing explosions in all types of Pokemon cards across all different sets. I can't really pinpoint one card or one set and say, oh, I don't really see the value in a lot of these cards. Right now, as the market is, we're seeing it across the board. So I just want to know what you guys think. Am I crazy for thinking this? Or I don't know. But either way, thank you guys for listening. And if you haven't had a chance, please subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out a lot. Like this video, and I'll catch you on the next one.